Hello everyone, my name is Maciej Nowak and welcome to the Osom to Know podcast where we discuss all things related to building great websites. In this episode we talk with Marieke van der Rakt, a co-founder of Yoast SEO plugin. Marieke served as both CRO and CEO of Yoast and now focuses on running her venture fund called Emilia Capital. We talked about women in tech and in business, her history at Yoast and the investment thesis behind Emilia Capital. If you don't want to miss new episodes and keep learning more about building great websites, subscribe to Osom to Know newsletter at awesomstudio.com/newsletter. If you watch this on YouTube, give us a thumb and subscribe to the channel. This means a word to us. Without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Marieke van der Rakt.
Hey everyone, it's good to have you here. We're glad you decided to tune in for this episode of the Osom to Know podcast.
Hello, Marieke. Thank you very much for joining the pod.
Wow, you're welcome. I'm very happy to be here. Yeah.
And we started our conversation about doing this podcast together, inspired by your post on Poststatus about different open source communities. You know, there's WordPress community, there are other huge open source projects with their own backing communities, and I would love to listen to your take, also for our listeners. How would you describe, WordPress community versus other communities as for starters? So is there any difference in those, backing communities in your opinion?
Well, I think the WordPress community is very special, but that's just because I love it so much. So I don't know if that's true, but I do think that because we are an open source community, people are really invested in the project, and you see people sticking around for a long time, not because of financial gain, but because they really believe in it. And what I also see is that somehow led to a very diverse community with a lot of people from all over the world, with a lot of color and also a lot of gender, which is something you not always see in other tech communities. The number of women in our WordPress community is relatively high. And at the same time, I think so. I've been last week. I've joined the startup community in the Netherlands, and I usually don't go to those events because I don't know, I'm too busy. But now I went there, and I was the only woman in the room. I was the only one, and which doesn't happen to me at WordCamps, never. And there are also a lot of people working with WordPress, but none of them ever went to a WordCamp. So now I was very curious to why you're working with WordPress and you're not going to a WordCamp. So I think somehow there is this whole world outside of the WordPress community which we don't necessarily know of, because it is like an in-crowd thing, the WordPress community, and it's good to look beyond our own borders and to see how other people are working, and where they get their information from and stuff.
That's super interesting, for a couple of reasons. One, last Friday, so less than a week ago, there was International Women Day. So, and then you end up in that startup event being the only woman. That's that's interesting. And with WordPress community, it's very it's big. At the same time, it's, I would say, charismatic a little bit. A lot of people were using WordPress and never, I guess, they even never heard of WordCamp. And I have a feeling that this is the same division as we are using Microsoft technologies, and there are Microsoft conferences for ISVs or any other partners. I would say there are producers and consumers, and you met only the consumers in that event, right?
Yeah. I met, and I usually I go to a lot of WordCamps, and I go to SEO conferences. That's a bit my thing. And so I now did something totally different, which was, it was only in the Netherlands, so it was a Dutch community, and they all knew about us, which is also weird because usually if I go outside of WordPress Space, nobody knows who I am or what I did. So I was flabbergasted that there was this whole group of people, only men, but still, that were working with WordPress, but didn't know about the fact that there is this whole community behind it. And I think Well, you're correct that WordPress or that Microsoft probably has the same, but because we are open source and we need people to invest their time and energy into making the project better, we should do a bit more marketing and telling people why WordPress is so awesome, because that'll help us. I think that'll help us. So the person I was talking to actually said that he didn't know if he wanted to stay with WordPress because things were getting, I don't know what he said because I didn't listen, because I said, of course you have to stay with WordPress. But he promised me that he would come to WordCamp Europe, because he said to me, he called me Mrs. Yoast, although I'm not no longer with Yoast, but well, with the person, but not with company. But he said, if Mrs. Yoast says that I have to go to WordCamp, then I'll come. So
All right. Okay. I don't know if I like Mrs. Yoast. Not the person obviously, but the term.
I don't know either. But he was like, if you say that, because he did know Yoast, the company, and was very like impressed to meet me and everything. And then I said, but you've never come to a WordCamp, and you've been building WordPress sites since, I don't know, since 2010 or something, so a very long time. And he said, no, I never went there. And I think there are a lot of companies that go to different events that also have their own community in having a business or being an agency, which we don't reach as a WordPress community now, and we should be able to reach more of those people. That's at least I think.
And there's a big PHP community as well, with all of those PHP confs and so on, and WordPress being on PHP. I would say there is like a natural source of like backing, although those are more like application level technologies like Laravel or other or Symfony. But I would say this is very, very close, because PHP get a lot of like sometimes bad rep, like this is dying language and so on, and there is Go, there is enterprise technologies and so on, but still people are crashing it in PHP, spinning up websites and applications very fast. So it's like everyone is saying PHP is dying, and it's not,
well, then
it's not happening
as well, I think. So no, yeah,
yeah.
you're totally right. So I think it's important to look outside of our own bubble, and at the same time our bubble is great, because I also noticed that if you want to make a product in WordPress, I don't know, if you want to have a plugin or something else, then the community alone is not enough, as the people that you need to be able to reach beyond the WordPress bubble of people that are really invested in WordPress. And in order to reach those people, yeah, well, you probably need to go to different events depending on which. So that's always the reason why, while working at Yoast, we always were with one foot in the WordPress community and the other one in the SEO community, which is very different type of community, because I think the SEO community has opened up a lot, but used to be much more money driven, and those were crazy events so a really big difference between the two. But that also helped getting our message across, because we were known in two big communities where people talk about you. That's good. So I think we all should make an effort to look outside of the WordPress world as well.
And what would you say, because this is like a very correct statement, because one thing is, if you are not looking outside that bubble, you are missing out, basically, because everyone is saying the same thing. There is echo chamber, everyone's the same community. I have a feeling that also WordPress community is special. After the pandemic, I was in Vienna for WordCamp Vienna, and then met a couple of people. It was so open. They have English track, so I was like, I felt very welcome. I spent the whole day out the corridor talking with people, and I was amazed how open the people are. Based on that openness of those people, I went to Porto, huge event, 4,000 people there. Again, same thing, everyone is very open, and this was amazing. I can conclude that that I agree that you have to get out of that bubble to make that bubble better, to pull those experiences to also to grow. And I have a feeling that you had a great opportunity and a great chance with Yoast plugin, that you had those two bubbles: one, the technology space, and then SEO space, choosing yours solution, or even maybe choosing WordPress thanks to that legendary good SEO reputation WordPress has. Because this is what I hear from people: CMS and SEO capabilities for WordPress.
Yeah, I get that. And I also think that you appreciate our community more if you look outside the bubble. That's really so. The fact that if you are, you can be a bit spoiled by how awesome it is, or not see it anymore, because if you don't see how other events are, or how other communities are, especially the people. And I do like the people in the SEO community as well, especially in the recent years. They've opened up a lot, but still it's a different type of event. In a WordCamp, everybody is nice to you, and it's easy to talk to everybody. So I think I like the fact that there is an after party. At least at WordCamp Europe, there's always an after party which everybody can attend, and a lot of people come, and you can talk to so many different people. I always meet new people. I still meet new friends.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
I think because I'm not easy at making friends. I don't know why, but I don't necessarily make friends easily. But I have a lot of WordPress friends, so I'm able to make friends in WordCamps. Yeah.
Yeah, that's because you are within that group that that's, I think this is also an attitude that you identify with that group that has good reputation at being open, and then you have to blend in, and people naturally are opening up when they are entering that group and behaving like that group. So it's like, positive feedback loop, that people joining that WordCamp community behave like that community and are opening up, and it's so easy to blend in this way.
Yeah,
you
I
know
feel really safe as well. So it's a very safe space. Not that I've been attacked in other communities, but you know that people are going to be nice because that's expected of you. So that's, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. But you picked my interest with that SEO space, because I have no idea what does it mean. Like, who are those people? Like, are these agencies SEO agencies, founders, experts? How does it work? Because
A lot of
it's curious.
a lot of marketeers, a lot of salespeople. I think the SEO space, but that's like 10, 20 years ago, was also a space in which you could make quick money, because it was then very beneficial to rank high in Google. And then the methods were sometimes a bit questionable. Nobody in the SEO space now is doing those things anymore, but you could hack Google like 15 years ago, and that's gone away. But there so in that space, people make much more money than they used to do in the WordPress space, because I think in the WordPress space that grew. That grew because I think in the early days nobody made money in WordPress. So that was a very big difference. In the SEO space, there was a lot of money, except we were not making money then, and that now, and we also began making money in the SEO space. But WordPress was something that was more of a hobby for a lot of people, and that totally changed in the past 15 years. So now it's a professional community as well. But there's still a lot of people that are not in it necessarily to make money out of it. I think most people want to make a living out of it, but it's not all about making money. So that's a big difference. And of course, you have exceptions as well. Um, it's a lot of, yeah, marketing people working at big agencies, big yeah, big SEO tools. You have a lot of SEO tools that are big, like SEMrush, and I don't know more. Those kind of tools are in there as well.
Let's talk about for a second about Yoast plugin. You were also for a couple of years CEO of Yoast. I had last week, also very recent, a conversation with another CEO who is also a woman running her own company for 30 years, and the challenges she faced as being a woman in a technology space, and different expectations, the way she has to deal with things as a woman versus what she observes from men, let's say CEO. So are you open to
Yeah.
share a little bit? How was it for you?
Well, I think it's very important to know that my husband was the former CEO, and so that is an interesting dynamic, because I think I was, except in the company, I think I was, well, not without, because I don't want to like say anything bad about my husband, but I think he agrees that even before I became CEO, I was the CEO. So and it's not that I was the boss, because we had a management team of 4 or 5 people, depending on, we always made decisions together, but I was the one telling people, we have to make a decision now, and we're going to look ahead. So the tasks that should be with the CEO were the tasks that I initiated. And then at one point in time, we decided to let me be the CEO, and he because I'm not good at finance, so he always did that. So every CEO is different. I didn't feel it was different to lead the company locally, or at least within Yoast. It was everybody respected me. I didn't have any issues in that, but I had those issues before, because I was Joost's wife. And a lot of people just assumed that I was having that task because I was married to him, because at least he was the founder. Internally, people didn't think that anymore, because they all saw that I was doing a lot of work. If you look at my resume, I've done
PhD.
PhD.
You have PhD.
Yeah, so I had like my I think I've earned the trust of the company. That was different outside of Yoast, because a lot of people didn't know me, because Yoast is much more visible, and he enjoys that more than I do. And a lot of people just thought, well, who is this girl?
Mm.
So that was difficult for me sometimes, because then you have to show what you're worth.
Yeah, prove yourself.
Yeah, and and we can compare. So I get much more questions about how I deal with my job and my 4 children, while Joost never got those questions, and he also had 4 children, because we have them together. So he never got that question. He was like, why are people asking you that? I'm like, I don't know. And I feel I'm very proud of my children, so I like talking about them. But I stopped doing that because then it's all I talk about, because people just do that because I'm a woman, and I think it's more interesting to talk about what I did at Yoast and how I combined those tasks. I know I said to someone once, there are a lot of, everybody has a mother. It's just most women have children, so that's not the thing that's interesting. So that was a different thing. And at events, I don't. Yeah, it's different. I think I manage, but I know I remember going somewhere. It's not even if I'm with Joost, people assume that I'm his wife, but we had 2 other partners who were both male as well. If I went somewhere with them, they would assume that I was married to them. They always assumed that I was someone's wife. Well, that was, well, I remember I was speaking at a WordCamp, and one of my colleagues joined me, and they just assumed that he was speaking and that I was coming along, and it's very awkward to.
This is awful. It's
Yeah, well, yeah, that happens. That just happens, and it's also because people don't mean any bad with it. So you don't want to upset people, or being too outspoken to say, hey, you're mistaken, I'm the one speaking. So you want to do that subtle, so that people don't feel bad because they made the wrong assumption. I'm also a very bubbly person, a bit ADHD-ish. So people just tend to underestimate what I can do, because I don't know, I'm very outgoing and stuff. I don't know. just happens all the time. And that means that the difficulty is that you have to correct that, not let it get to you, and show what you can do. And it sometimes does something with your self-esteem or with your confidence. So it is hard. I wouldn't necessarily want. We're now doing it together with Emilia. The CEO role is also very out there. So the internal part of managing a team and looking forward to what is coming and strategic planning, that's something I can do. But outside of it, so the communication with partners and stuff, I found that very difficult. And I think Joost is better at that than I am.
You mentioned that there are different CEOs and different like areas of expertise. I read about this in Ben Horowitz's book, that there is like wartime CEO and peacetime CEO, and I have a feeling that the mindset is very different in those areas. It's obviously like very startup growth, etc. Setting, but with what you said is I can relate to it when I'm thinking about other agencies. So we have an agency. We started it as software engineers, all computer science graduates, etc., building applications previously and now building websites on top of WordPress. And what I say to you, being better at managing organization and not maybe outgoing with partnerships, being the outspoken face of the company, I compare that to other agencies where they were founded by designers or marketing people or sales people building marketing agencies, and they have different DNA. During different phases of the company, there are different needs of that company, because this is natural that when the company is growing, you have at the steering wheel there have to be a different person because of the challenges that person can solve for the company.
So I think Joost, the person, was very good at growing that first company, and he's very outgoing. So he spoke. Well, he's an introvert actually, but he's very good at speaking at events and doing the marketing. And but the growth of the company, or the ability to grow further and to build a team, that was something that he wasn't interested in. So it's not that he's a lovely person, but he's not interested in hiring people. Or so that was the part that I used to do. And I also think that he's a very practical person. So he still writes code a lot. So he just had like a ton of ideas on how to improve the product. But if you run a bigger company, you also have to take time and think, okay, where are we going? What is our next step? How are we going to strategically do this? How are we going to reach the correct people? And that's the role that I took. And I think together we are a great team, because we really we add a different thing to the dynamic. And I can't do that without him, but he says he can always. He told me that because he is the founder of Yoast, but at my goodbye party of Yoast, he said that I'm now allowed to call myself co-founder, because he couldn't have done it without me. So I'm the co-founder of Yoast.
Perfect. Yeah, that recognition that came at the goodbye party,
Yeah.
right?
No. And it became public. He's always been very vocal to me, at least, about I can't do that without you. We've been together for a very long time, so I've been and I know that's true, but that doesn't mean that what he did wasn't extraordinary. I think he did an extraordinary thing, and that I'm far less creative. At least I can't even write code, so I couldn't have done it without him as well.
You mentioned that also you were within the company for a long time as well when this was growing. So I wonder, how did you find that? How did you find that tasks to do, let's say, or like how did you decided this is that part that we need to take care of? For during those meetings, because I have a feeling this was very organic for you, that you have blended in, and naturally you developed that part, like you invented a job for yourself, because this was so natural. So I'm curious to know how what was the process that you end up doing so much within Yoast.
Well, Yoast built something that I used. So the SEO plugin is something that writers use. But he wasn't, well, he also writes, but he's a technical person. So what we quickly found out is that I am much more like the users of Yoast than he was. And we always used to talk about the Yoast.
Perfect combination, like two pieces of
Yeah, but
like
I see
yin and yang.
that so for a startup to grow, you first need the early adopters. Joost is an early adopter. I'm not, and so he totally understands what those people want. But if you then really want to grow, you need to have a product that's appealing to people that are not, because there are only that many developers that do SEO. So that's I actually came up with the idea of the readability analysis that we have, which focused much more on text, and that meant that text and writing became very important in Yoast SEO. So that's something that I added to the mix. And I think I did a lot of research. I'm a researcher. So I did a lot of user research in the early days to see who are our users. Can we define certain groups? And that's how we came up with the Yoast and Mariekes, the people that are early adopters, that are more technical, that want to use SEO as a way to, I don't know, did they really understand what Google does? And then you have a group of people that want to rank high in the search engines, but actually can't do anything else in the technical department except writing. And that's, I think, what we made out of that is something that's really usable for a really large group of people. And that's, I don't know, that's just, I kept thinking about the user and making it, the product has to be like I could use it. And I think that's something that we did really good. And I see that because we're now investing in all kinds of other companies, I see the same problems arising. So the first people to adopt a new plugin are usually developers or people that understand what the plugin actually does. But if you really want to make it successful, you need to have more people wanting it apart from that small group of developers, because otherwise it will not become at least a commercial success.
I love that you are that in those I forgot the title of that book, but there's that crossing the chasm. I forgot the author, but there are those early adopters, early majority, and so on. And there's that chasm between second and the third group. If you are successful, you cross that. And I have a feeling that that ICP, ideal customer profile, of Marieke was that third and fourth silo, maybe, so that you were that what was your job, writing was that target for the product of Yoast to reach, right? So
And they were mainly, I remember that because we did I'm a social scientist, so I knew a lot about collecting data and then doing all kinds of analysis. And I remember that we did an analysis and we found distinct groups. So you had developers, and then you had people that were not that skilled, but more SEO marketing people. And then you had writers, and they were mainly women. I remember that as well because we asked that. So you could just see those groups, and you could also see that who were more inclined to buy something premium. So doing a lot of research has also helped us, and thinking about what your user base is going to be. Yeah.
And I think this is very difficult to get, the user
Yeah.
research. If you are early, and you would have to go to a specialized agency doing that research, or try to implement it in-house, and this can be like skewed because someone is not doing this right. And with that background of
That
yours,
helped.
I think you were that was like a perfect like that turbo boost that you got to fine tune early because of that all of that research that you're probably since you are a researcher you get excited by doing research, so it's like not natural for you to do that stuff.
Yeah, and I'm not that good in the collecting of the data, but then that's something what Joost is really good at, and we didn't know that. So I was writing my PhD, and I was already with him, and I did not know that he was so good at well, in managing data, because in my PhD I had a lot of data, and if I had known that in that phase of my that would have saved me a year from writing my dissertation. But I didn't know that then. But then when I was working at Yoast, I noticed that he was really good at the things that I'm not that good at, because that's a lot of programming, and that's just not something I'm very skilled at. And I never knew that was the same thing that he was doing. So we
Wow.
did this together. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So speaking of a great duo, now you run Emilia Capital, and
Yeah.
I would love to know the story. How did it happen?
Well, even before we sold Yoast, we were doing really well, and wanting to contribute, but also seeing opportunities in people who we knew who were trying something new. So we invested in a few WordPress products. We also invest outside of WordPress, especially in the Netherlands. When we see something that's interesting, then we would invest. And then we decided we only want to invest in things that make sense to us. So it's either open source, or it's something that's good for the environment, so sustainability, or it should be something that's founded by a woman, because that's very important to me. We have one investment that does all three, which is the best.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and so
Would you like to talk about it?
yeah,
About that?
that's I think they're almost ready to really launch. That's Canopy. That's a WordPress plugin that's going to measure the amount of CO2, the carbon thing, that your website uses. So and they're working on it, and they've been working with universities to get that right, because there are coming all kinds of laws to Europe and to the UK, in which people are obliged to to report how much carbon footprint. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm always talking in Dutch in my head about that. So people need to know how much they are using up, and if you want to reduce your carbon footprint, you at least have to know what you are using. So that's something that's that is almost done, I think, and will be released. Yeah.
Interesting. And this is for websites only, right?
Yeah.
Or is okay. Yeah, because there is, I think, two maybe tools online that can calculate that for you, but I guess you have to trust their word
Yeah,
for
well,
that.
this is on your own. This is better. I don't know enough about it yet, but I'm really excited about what they are building and about what it's going to be. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So this is interesting. Yeah. So please continue about like a founding story of Emilia Capital.
Well, yeah. So we had been doing a few of investment before we sold Yoast, and then we sold Yoast, and we both ended up working a little while there, but we were already thinking, okay, what are we going to do next? For me, it makes a lot of sense to give back to the community. So part of what we've made in money with Yoast has to go back to new good things for the community. And so we do a lot of WordPress things. I think last year we've done so many that we've now hit pause a bit, because we also want to be able to help our investments. And if you only checking out new ones, it becomes really, really busy, because I think we have 12 companies in which we have a share. Sometimes we only have like 1 or 2%, but we also have investments in which we have, I think, 20. So there are a lot of differences in what we do, and we help those companies to get them being successful. And yeah, that's what we do. So Yoast helps with development and the product side. I help with marketing and maybe a little bit of strategy. Yeah.
Interesting. I know about one of your about one of your investments, which is Wild Cloud by WCS, and I talked with Roger Roswade about how your investment changed their like company, and all of, like, for example, your input into like driving them, this has to change, you should do this differently, and so on. Uh, he said a lot of good things coming from you as investors in their company, that because there's, like, everyone's saying that there is money and there is smart money, and you don't want to have only money but also that backing, that expertise. And this is very interesting that you are able to give them
Yeah, and our
that.
network, of course, in the WordPress world is really good because we've been around for such a long time. We know people that have been around for a long time. We also know a lot of people in the big companies because we spoke with all of them when we were in our acquisition process, and so we know a lot of people, which also helps just be able to to connect people easily, and for plugin companies to talk to the right people at hosting companies and those kind of things. So that helps as well. Our network is really useful. Yeah.
hmm And you mentioned that actually this was one of my questions. What's the investment thesis for Emilia? But you mentioned that there are three pillars, and interestingly, you mentioned that woman-led businesses. And again, I was thinking, is there like anything you can think of that would help women or even girls join that technology space? What can be done differently so that you not end up as the lone woman in the startup event?
Yeah, I think it's hard. So what you're saying is all true. It's very in societies. So we're all there are different expectations for what a girl is and what a boy should do. And I also tried. I have 4 children. I only have one daughter, and we try to do to raise her exactly the same as her brothers. But there is a lot of different things that influence her as well. So her friends and social media and all stuff. Now I think she's doing really, really well in school and all kinds of stuff. She should follow her own path. But these things do influence us, and I don't know. So I went to a startup event and I asked because I was really flabbergasted. I was there as like a mentor, so there wasn't a single female startup entrepreneur there because I was actually the mentor. So I was the only woman in the room, and so they said there are female entrepreneurs, but they don't come to these events. So it could well be that facing more challenges, because you do face more challenges because there are a lot of prejudice and stuff, that women are less inclined to do networking events because they feel like I have so much to do and this is something that perhaps is not necessarily useful, but in the end it is. So if they are not doing those kinds of events, they don't meet investors and have and those like those bonds. So creating those bonds is good for getting your startup on a roll. Only that's not like a direct effect. So I already offered to the organization saying, if you want to brainstorm about how to get more women to these events, then I'm there. We do find female investments, but I also, because if we receive slide decks of all kinds of companies, and if the company is founded by a woman, I would set it apart and really take a close look. So I would be very much more inclined to say yes because it's a woman. But the majority of slide decks that come to us are not by women.
I would say this is extremely complicated matter because it's on so many layers. You have the situations like now with like extremely lower number of women founded startups. On the other hand, there are some talks about enforcing a certain percentage of women in boards, for example. And you felt that yourself when you were in Yoast that people were like, automatically like turning to that man instead of looking at the who are they talking to, right? So I have a feeling like unless this is like organic change, that from the younger people changing their behavior, changing their perception of that, changing those stereotypes that inviting girls to those math classes, those hard sciences, if this is not natural, it might be difficult to be accepted, because how do you decide
I
or
agree
why?
that it's difficult, but I do believe in quota
Hmm?
because I think because those girls need role models, so you need to have someone to see and look up to and see, hey, she looks like me and she's doing the same thing. Even if she's doing a crappy job, then perhaps they think I could do better. That's even better. And I think it's very important to have people, women, or that goes for all kinds of diversity. But if you have a diverse board, what people tend to do is hire people that look like them. And if you have more women in the board, the chances are that are going to hire more women just because. So the board of Yoast is very female still, and it wasn't when I became CEO. All of the other one were men, and we've really changed that because I think because I became CEO, we got more female applicants. And I think that because I was in the room making the decisions, the chances are just higher that you hire someone. So if in the same startup event, people were talking about if you trust your gut when you hire someone, they said, because then because you should really be able to collaborate with people. And then I said, but if you white men all trust your gut, you're going to hire only white men because they are the ones you understand, because that's just you hire people that look like you, because if you do trust your feelings, that's just easier to connect with. You understand how those people work because you're one of them. So I think at Yoast we did pretty good at the men female ratio, but we didn't have that much diversity in terms of cultural diversity. And whenever we had someone from a different culture applying, then we gave that person an extra interview just to make sure that we were not prejudiced because we didn't understand the culture. Because if someone just is different because he grew up in a different country, and then it might be that you just don't connect to someone as easily as another candidate, but that doesn't mean that they're not a good employee or will not be a good employee. So I think if you have, even like in a quota, which I would never want to be chosen anywhere just because I'm a woman, but I've been on so many stages just because I am a woman. And I do that because I want to be a role model, and then do really my best to present well. And I usually do. I've especially been on a lot of stages because I'm a woman. I'm always now invited to talk about our acquisition and not Yoast, because there are very few women that did an acquisition, and Yoast is totally fine with it. But that's the reason that I'm there and not him. I always know that, and everybody knows that. But that doesn't mean that I can't present my story well or tell a good story. So I think like, okay, I'm there because I'm a woman, and now I'm going to do my absolutely fucking best, and just yeah. So I think we need those. We need to have quotas, and we need to make sure that there are enough women in role models.
This is very interesting what you said about being a role model, because I have never thought about this before. I was more worried that there is a space before quota, let's like a word before quota, and let's say after quota, and there are women like you that earned that, with hard work and everything, and then there is that triggering moment with a quota, and initial candidates that would be hired. I have I have that worry that every woman that was doing what she did with this, I'm not saying hostile, but more difficult for them environment to get where they are right now, and now you as a company has to hire someone who is a woman, and okay, I had to. How am I going to compare when, as that woman who was doing this for 10 years, let's say, fighting for that, recognition and everything, and now someone has to be hired just because.
Even if it has to be, I'm like confident enough that there are enough women that could fulfill the job. So it's just a matter of time for people to see that she is in fact capable. And there will be some issues in which it backfires, but we have to do something.
Price of the change.
Yeah, I think so. And if there are not enough people that believe in the fact that women actually can do something, then that should, yeah, that should become clear. That's just,
But I especially like the role model idea, because if this is the case that you were receiving much more female applicants, this is super interesting, because I never thought about this, that applicants are looking who is the CEO or who is the head or what is the board, who is there, and now like, okay, there is a woman, so
I can be that. No, and if you look at and WordCamps are doing great, but there are also events where there are fewer women on stage. If you're in, if you're already like, women are more modest, and it's just how we were raised, I think. And if you see someone on stage who is a woman and is presenting like this awesome talk, then you perhaps think, oh, maybe I can do that. If you see someone on stage who is a woman who does a crappy job, then I would think I can do better. And both is good, because you see someone who looks like you on stage, and just the thought I could do that, that's something that should that should pop up in women's heads more. And that also goes for other cultures, and people need to see someone in a place that they can look up to that looks like them. And I think in the WordPress community, we've done that really well. And there are events where it's not. We at Yoast once had an event, and we accidentally didn't have a lineup that was totally like equal, and then we fixed it, because that happens sometimes. You have people that you asked for your event and they back out, and then you just you ask someone else, and then all of a sudden your lineup is like 80% male. And then we change it. But so in WordPress also, that sometimes happens without bad intent. But we've been doing a really good job in having female speakers, having cultural diversity on stage, and that reflects on what the community is. So I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, I'm curious how this is going to develop, and I have a feeling that WordCamps are like that 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 paper measurement for the acidity. How do you? It's like saying in Polish, but what I was going to say is that it's it's like a proxy to what is going to happen in other, let's say, technologies or spaces, or because this is so inclusive, I would say, that other communities or other spaces can look at it, at the like what's happening in terms of good things, and also about the struggles that the community has doing that, because it's not like um, only good stories, right? There are always problems, and it's like a small lab testing those ideas, right? And seeing this in smaller scale, how this can scale up to societies, let's say.
Yeah, I think in a lot of cases, and that doesn't mean that everything is like perfect in WordPress, because it isn't, but it is ahead of a lot of societies and of other communities in terms of diversity and openness. WordPress is doing really well in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. Interesting thing to talk about, not intended at all. I'm Yeah, but let's talk about still, Emilia. You have the fund, right? And you are doing investments and want to help the companies. And I was thinking about this. the general like wisdom is that you have to do like 1,000 investments to make one that will hit really big.
1,000 is a lot. So I think 1 in 100 does a really big thing. Yeah. Yeah, but I think I'm smarter than that. No, that's not true. So I think a lot of so we we also do investments that are more towards we really have to make money out of this, but that's something that our bank does for us. So and then we also invest in good things and in environment stuff and all. But these are things that we're passionate about ourselves, and also that I feel that would benefit the WordPress world or the world in general. Um, and I don't know whether or not we will actually make a lot of money out of that. I've even when we were still at Yoast, I always thought that we were really lucky and we just had luck. I don't think that anymore. I think we really
That
yeah.
modesty is speaking through you.
No, it's gone. No, but I now see other companies, and I'm like, no, I really we were doing really well. Maybe accidentally, so or organically. That's what you said. That's that it just grew that way. But we really knew what we were doing. So this whole investment also led to a new. We are building a new plugin, Joost and I, and some of our employees, which I think will come out this spring or something, because we think now we've done this before. We now know how this works, and I also think that we could do it better than other companies. I'm not modest anymore. It's just, and we want to try it again. And the
I
next,
have fun again.
yeah, having fun. It gets really fun to work at something and to so I missed that, because if you are an investment advisor, you're mainly you're in a few meetings, and I write a few. Well, I don't know. I write things to advise people, and they then do what I wrote down. But doing something yourself, or building something, and I'm not writing the code, but I'm thinking along the way on how it will look like and what it will be. That's something I really enjoy. And I also think that even if it will not become a success, because you don't know that, it's really hard to become successful, that we learn a lot about about the new WordPress situation, because WordPress has changed since the last time we launched the plugin, and that will help give better advice. But I agree with you that it's not necessarily, we're not going to be rich out of all of these investments. Some of them are things that I really believe that are going to be big, but some of them will probably not be successful. That's
Yeah,
how it works.
I'm asking about this because this is totally different situations, a situation than what big funds are doing, big venture capital is doing, because there's different dynamics. These are someone else's money managed by a big fund, and you are doing this for yourself with different tempo. You are not pressured to spend all of that money in the given year and so on. You can have your own, let's say, agenda. You can decide. First of all, you won't be judged if you make this amount of return on all of your whole the portfolio and so on. So this is like, I would say, this is like a leisure fund, like, done for your at your own tempo, at your own rules and so on. So this is totally different game, but still I'm thinking about that big number law that says like this is like tiny percent that will succeed, bigger percent that will do okay, and the rest will, let's say, lose,
Yeah,
sadly.
yeah. I think you're right. So that'll probably be the case, and that's okay. I think we know that part of it will lose. We do think, but that's just, we're not modest, that we are able to influence it a little bit. But at the same, and we've already learned a lot. So I also now know what to pay attention to if you choose a new investment, and also what not to do. But every startup thinks that they're going to be really successful, and I tended to believe all of them, and that's not, yeah, well, they probably are not. So most startups are not going to 10x. That's just so become 10 times the worth that they are right now. Most of them will just be okay, or will just go bankrupt. Yeah, that's what it is. But if they in the meantime add benefit to the WordPress ecosystem or add benefit to the users, then I think that's good as well. And we are smart people and we don't invest any money that we can't miss. So we will not be.
Yeah, this is the ground rule, right?
Yeah, and we at Yoast, we never had any investors, so we sold. But before that, there were no investments, and the reason because we didn't want to was that most investors say, "Well, you have to make an exit in like 5 years, or there's a plan," and we didn't want that. At the end, we did want to sell, but we didn't know that, and so we never say that to any of our companies. We want to make a company profitable and then we'll get part of the profit because we are shareholder, or you can sell at one point of the time, but there's no like pressure on what our portfolio companies need to be doing. They need to be either be profitable or make an exit at some point.
And I also noticed that there is very little I would say fans like you in the space, in WordPress space. Like maybe to what you said before, that back in the days the WordPress was not like profit focused, and this is what I was also talking with Roger Zvejda. Part of our talk was dedicated to making money on WordPress, and this is only like emerging. Maybe there is a little bit of a trade on, let's say, plugins. Like a solo developer is selling his plugin, someone is buying it, but like fans oriented, like a big part on like oriented in big part on WordPress, I can't think of anything like you. The only one I'm thinking of, or maybe two. One is Sector, hosting companies buying plugins, or companies, or technology. This is one, and the other one is Said Balki with Automotive, and that's it. So
Well, I think so. The fact that it's so the hosting companies all make a lot of money in WordPress, but a plugin is in WordPress is always open source, and for a lot of investment companies, that's weird because it can be duplicated and sold immediately. So what you have to do in WordPress if you have a plugin is build a brand, because that's the thing that protects it. Because you can just fork any plugin and then go sell it, but it will probably not work if you fork a plugin, because everybody will just think, what are you doing? But for investment companies, that's really weird. We had to explain the whole open source concept, because in the end we sold to Newfold, who understood open source, but we also had some bigger investment agencies in our process, and they didn't understand open source, and they were like, this is a really scary business model. Everybody can just take it away from you, and then you'll have nothing anymore. So it is a difficult model which a lot of people don't understand. So I think that's part of the reason why there are few investors in, and it is a difficult business model. It is difficult to make money out of open source software. It's not.
why is that? Because of open source?
Because everybody can fork it. So, and it happens. That really happens.
Or bypass the license?
Yeah. Yeah, right. So you get a lot of criticism if you put too many things in your premium product, and then you will be forked, and then what people will do. But if you do so that's like a trade-off thing. But if you don't have enough in your premium product, then you don't make enough money to support it. So it's always hard. So at Yoast, we had a lot of criticism on what's in premium, and you should be and you should have like a viable free product. But if we had 13 million users, that's a lot of users to to help, and they're not paying. So that's the weird trade-off, I think, in the open source software. That
these were 13 million users on free plan?
Yeah, and on the free. And I think,
oh wow,
yeah, it's a lot.
And you were replying to their questions and
No,
stuff?
you can't. That's impossible.
Okay.
So that's impossible. So that you can't. So there's only forums, but 13 million users. That also means 13 million different users that all use different plugins. And that also makes WordPress hard. The environment of every customer is different because everybody has a different plugin setup. And in order to make sure to merge with all of them, that means that you'll have a lot of issues. And Yoast had a lot of those issues, and I think and they're still doing really well in that regard. But it is hard to do all of that. So to have the fact that you're open source and that you'll get a lot of criticism and even people forking your plugin or making what we had was we had so 30 million free users and far less premium users. I don't know how many they have. I think they're doing better than we did. But there are like, it's like 2 or 3%. That's it. What we used to do is place ads in your free version, but people would get annoyed with those ads. And then there would then someone would build a plugin to remove the ads in Yoast SEO free, which would make it harder to sell our stuff, but we need to sell our stuff in order to also get new features out in the free plan. So it's a difficult business model to have. And also what to do. Should you not do a premium, a free plugin, but how do you get the attention, because you have to have a free plugin to be in a repository. So it's a different business or a difficult business model, I think.
That's super interesting. And yet, knowing all of those like limitations, risks, and so on, you are now working on a new product.
Yeah. But we are, so I don't know if it will work, but I'm very enthusiastic, at least at building it. Yeah.
Is there any AI involved?
Not yet.
Not yet. I like the not yet part.
No, I think we have ideas. And so my husband is an early adopter, so he is all about things.
He's up to his ears in what's happening right now.
Yeah.
By the way, I just learned like yesterday that there is that tool called Devin, and this is like autonomous. Let me Google that. From Cognition Labs, and they created Devin, which is AI agent, and they assigned him an Upwork job of building a model in Python, and the Upwork job was to build a model in Python to mark damage to the roads. So there was like a training set of number of pictures with marked, there is a hole, there is a crack, whatever. The prompt to do that job, they gave him the prompt, figure this out, Devin, please figure this out, what's happening on those training sets. And this is amazing that that agent succeeded. And this was like yesterday or the day before yesterday, and I can't stop thinking about this, because it sounds like, and I tend to ask all of my recent guests about AI. How I started when ChatGPT rolled out, and how this is going to change SEO and content creation. Now we know that Google just addressed this in March, that they are banning, and they indexing those firms. But this is crazy that you can have an agent that will take the whole repository on GitHub, all of those images, it will crank it and produce results with zero prompts from you, other than Upwork description. So I wanted to introduce the AI to the end of this conversation, and not yet part of your plugin is very interesting to me. How it will unveil.
I think so. What Yoast is using a lot of AI. I'm not. I am old school. I'm not an early adopter, so I will do that in a while. But especially to build things. So he gives a lot of prompts, and it helps him to develop much faster and much better, because he knows what to build, and then AI helps him to build it, which makes all of us, I think, a lot smarter. But but the ideas are still human, but the work is done by, I don't know. Yoast always calls AI like having 20 interns. if you tell them what to do, they'll do all the work and you don't have to do anything anymore, but you still have to tell them what to do because they're a bit stupid. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They are limited.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to give them really good instructions, and then you get really good results. That's
Mhm. Wow, interesting. I will pay attention to your tweets and feed yours and Yoast. I'm super curious
It's
what
going
you
to
are.
be really fun. It's going to be a fun plugin, something nice.
Yeah,
Yes.
fun and especially fun for you. This is like, I guess since it's like you sold Yoast, you have Emilia Capital, and now what you are going to build, I think number one priority is fun, because you don't have to do that. You are not pressurized to do anything. So number one, fun, and then backing to the community. But at the end of the day, it's nice to have a profit, to cover the expenses of building all of that. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. All right. Marieke, thank you so much. It was a very interesting conversation with a lot of unexpected avenues, especially around inclusivity and balance, let's say. So I wasn't expecting this, and it was super interesting to hear it from you. And once again, thank you very much, and see you maybe around in WordCamp Europe.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, we booked a flight yesterday. So
Oh, nice. We have to do this too. Are you going to have a booth there?
no, we're not. We had one last year. No, we decided not to do that. I thought it was exhausting.
Oh yeah, I bet, and especially if you were like filling up that round, let's say, of companies, that's fine. But if you are not going to be as active in this space this year, I don't think this makes sense.
No, we will be there. I applied to speak, but we haven't heard yet. But I'm going anyway, so it doesn't matter if I. Yeah, so I'll see you there. I had a really fun time talking to you as well. So thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. This was super interesting for me. Thank you very much.
If you like what you've just heard, don't forget to subscribe for more episodes. On the other hand, if you've got a question we haven't answered yet, feel free to reach out to us directly. Just go to osomstudio.com/contact. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next episode of the Awesome to Know podcast.